Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, February 1st, 2015. I'm feeling much better this week. Thank you everybody for the get well wishes. I am gonna have to keep Y&R chat maybe a little bit shorter this week. We're expecting 6 to 8 inches of snow here in my part of the world, and just in case the power goes out or something crazy, I want to make sure Y&R chat gets up. So I'm gonna try to blow through all of this week's storylines. I hope I don't miss anything major. Of course, knowing me, I'll just keep on talking for another hour. I tell you, ever since Phyllis has come out of her coma, she has been jealous. She has been competitive. She's been scary. She's been downright murderous. So exactly the way I remembered her before the coma. The thing is, everybody seems to be talking about how Phyllis is not the same person as she was, and she doesn't seem that different to me. Am I the only one? I think that maybe the main difference in Phyllis, other than the obvious fact that it's played by a different actress, is that Phyllis seems to be questioning herself. Everybody around her has kind of gotten in her head, and now all of a sudden she's not sure who she is. I think for the first time, Phyllis is really starting to feel remorse for the various kooky things that she's done throughout her life. And this week, Jack convinced her to go see a psychiatrist. And again, there's no evidence really at this point in the story that Phyllis has done anything, but she's gone to this psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is sort of trying to draw out of her what the real story with the Kelly situation might be. And Phyllis did go so far as to say, yeah, I wanted Kelly to suffer and I've done all of these other bad things, but doesn't really reveal that she has any kind of conscious memory of doing any of it. In my opinion, it's because she's not doing any of it. I think ultimately that psychiatrist and everything she said to that psychiatrist is gonna play in and come back to bite her. But I think that Phyllis was being very honest in that moment of taking responsibility for some of the things that she's done, and certainly taking responsibility for the way she's felt toward Kelly and Jack, and you know, in general herself. But I don't think she's doing this. Maybe it's just me. She has gotten inside, or everybody else has gotten inside of her head. And this week there was this awesome scene where Phyllis is waking up from a nightmare. She's gone to see Victor to confront him about the fact that he brought her out of this coma with reckless disregard for her well-being, that it was really all about him, which is completely true. But I loved the way the scene ended, where in Phyllis's nightmare, Victor said something to her like, well, maybe it's a good idea if you go back into the coma. He whips out a syringe from nowhere, lunges at her, and plunges it into her hand. It was so awesome. I watched it twice. Because it was shocking the first time I saw it, and then I was like, I gotta go back and specifically watch Eric Braeden for that, because it's a weird, I mean, Victor is a villain. That was a Freudian slip, I suppose. Victor is a villain, but he's not that kind of villain, so I enjoyed seeing that very much. She wakes up from the nightmare, and as the week goes on, Paul is starting to sniff around. He's starting to ask questions. He goes to the athletic club. He talks to Kelly, and Kelly's still on the surface saying, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. I don't want to press charges. I don't want to bring Jack any more pain. It's okay that his fiance tried to poison me. I don't want to cause any trouble, which I don't buy at all. I think you could tell where I'm going with this. But Paul questions Kelly, and I mean, for crying out loud, his wife is the district attorney, and Phyllis did try to, you know, run them down and murder them. Christine tried to bring charges against Phyllis last year or the year before about that and was not successful. So Christine is chomping at the bit. Oh, there's an opportunity to get Phyllis back? Well, I'm gonna grab it. So it's clear that the law is zeroing in on Phyllis and trying to get closer and closer to the truth as the week has gone on. There's an interesting point where Phyllis calls Michael for a talk because, I mean, Paul and Christine have been questioning her, been questioning Jack. They kind of ended up, there was like twice this week where Paul and Christine came into Jack's house, not through the front door. Apparently Mrs. Martinez let them in through a side door or something, but they've been just in the house where when they shouldn't really have been without Jack's permission. But it's, you know, Phyllis is understanding that she's now being questioned by the authorities for this poisoning of Kelly, which she doesn't remember doing, but is starting to believe that maybe she could have done. So she calls Michael in as a friend and as an attorney and talks to him. And there were points throughout that conversation where my impression was, is Phyllis going to turn herself in? Because she was asking how, you know, what's the consequences here? What if I did get found guilty of this? What, you know, and Michael told her I think he said it was first-degree intentional homicide or something, and I thought, is she going to end up turning herself in, or is she just wanting to know how much hot water she's in? Certainly, I get the sense more that Phyllis is wanting to take responsibility for her actions and kind of get in touch with who she is and what she's done, as opposed to wanting to get away from it. But then at the very end of that scene, she sends Jack off on some kind of wild goose chase, and she goes and packs a bag, and no, she had her bags already packed, and she grabs her little wheelie suitcase and wheels it right out the front door of the Abbott mansion. I thought, she reminded me of Faith in that moment. Like, is Phyllis just running away? She's just gonna run away with her dollies, never to be found again? I was totally shocked and surprised. Next thing you know, Phyllis is in the park. She's called Kelly for this meeting. Kelly reluctantly meets Phyllis in the park. Oh, she's got 911 on speed dial. Crazy lady. If you try to make any more attempts on my life, I'm gonna call the cops. But Phyllis apologizes to Kelly, which, by the way, is the second time she's done that this week. We're seeing Phyllis before our very eyes showing remorse for something she's supposedly done. And even though Kelly is on the surface seeming a little frightened and confrontational, I don't know, there's something about watching her that made me think she's got to be enjoying this. She's got to be enjoying Phyllis's downfall, because Phyllis even mentioned that not only was she sorry for the supposed poisoning, but she was sorry for the other sadistic and cruel things she did. Phyllis did try to get Kelly to plan their engagement party, and Phyllis went out of her way to flaunt the relationship with Jack in Kelly's face, and getting an apology out of Phyllis for that had to have been incredibly satisfying for Kelly. And at the end of the conversation, Phyllis says to Kelly, I think you need to take care of Jack. I'm sorry for everything. Take care of Jack. And you get the sense that she is walking away forever, that in Phyllis's mind, in this moment, she's lost it, she's lost, and she's gonna go off and try to find herself. And Kelly's face is a little bit shocked, maybe not expecting Phyllis to give in that easily. I don't know, but Kelly is kind of shocked. She walks away, and then there's this shot of Phyllis sort of looking back to see Kelly, kind of to see which direction she's going in. So I'm thinking Phyllis has got to know what she's doing, or she's allowing everybody else to think that she did this and to think that she thinks that she did this. But I kind of wonder if the end of this story is going to be Phyllis trumping everyone. It seems at this point in the story, if you ask me, it looks like Kelly is checkmating Phyllis. I mean, Kelly's getting everything that she wanted. She's made no bones about the fact that she still wants Jack, and it has, on the surface, ran Phyllis off throughout, this poisoning thing. And not only that, she could be making sure that Phyllis goes away for a very long time. Paul and Christine come back to the Abbott mansion, and they're looking around, and they find antifreeze on the property, and makes sense. It's old. It's got flakes of rust in it, so which could have rendered it less potent, which is why we could explain why Kelly's not dead right now. But I think Kelly could have put it there. There's no question in my mind that Kelly could have put it there. If you think about it, the moment Kelly got out of the hospital, she went right to Jack's place. She could have planted the antifreeze then. She could have planted it before, but Kelly's had ample opportunity to be at that house. She couldn't have got in the garage and planted that there. And we all know Kelly still wants him. After Phyllis tells her, you take care of Jack, Kelly, of course, goes straight to Jack and tells him all about this conversation she just had with Phyllis, and I'm sorry she's gone. I mean, she confessed to me. And then Jack is like ringing in his ears like, wait, she's gone, I gotta find her. So he runs to find Phyllis and bring her back. Phyllis is still sitting in the park. I mean, almost make me think, well, Phyllis knew he was coming. She didn't really run away. She just sat in the park for a while with her suitcases. Meanwhile, Paul and Christine have found the antifreeze, and apparently the security footage at the club had been miraculously erased or damaged or something. So Paul and Christine had to work a little magic to restore some security footage, and sure enough, there's no face on the footage, but a tuft of red hair showing someone coming in. And again, whoever's doing this, it's like it really is a blonde versus red thing. Easily could have been wearing a wig. I mean, Kelly could have been wearing a wig. And we all know that Christine and Paul, to a lesser extent, I think, wants to believe that it's Phyllis. So they have no reason to think any otherwise. They know she's perfectly well capable of this. So they go to the house just as Jack and Phyllis are returning home, and Phyllis gets totally bombarded. Michael's there, the attorney, conveniently there, and just as Paul and Christine are showing up, and they arrest her, and they arrest Phyllis. She's immediately shocked, accusing Jack of tricking her. You tricked me, and I will never forgive you for this. This is what she's screaming as they're getting ready to haul her away. Next week, I mean, she's in the police station, so it's gonna be all about proving Phyllis's innocence. She's the only one on her side, sort of, at this point. Everybody else believes that she could have done this. I like this storyline because it's almost like playing on Phyllis's reputation more than any kind of evidence. Nobody's really shown me anything that's more than circumstantial evidence. It's more been played on, well, Phyllis could have done it. She's capable of doing it. I think we're probably gonna end up seeing, I hope not, but some level of trial or something. The psychologist or the psychiatrist that Phyllis had a conversation with has got to come into play. I think they're going to have all of this circumstantial evidence, and then they're going to bring up the conversation with the psychiatrist if they can. I assume they can, especially when a crime is involved. So I think we're going to see Phyllis getting really, really nailed to the wall on this one. But I tell ya, I think Phyllis is hip to what's going on. I think Kelly is behind it all. I think behind all of this, Kelly is in her little hotel room at night, just staring at a picture of Jack and just, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm doing so good. You know, you thought you were the smarter one? Well, I'm gonna one-up you. I think Kelly is establishing, or trying to establish herself as the other female lead, just as smart as Phyllis, just as vicious as Phyllis, and just as worthy of Jack's love. But I think that's the case. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm watching it from through a different looking glass or something. But I think this has got Kelly's fingerprints all over it. There's no way there's not another twist around the corner. I totally believe she's orchestrating it, and I think Phyllis is onto her. Maybe Victor should be just renamed villain, because it's kind of the vibe he's given me lately. Jill has been given this amazing gift of millions, presumably, of dollars on a silver platter from her husband's blackmail success, and Jill is so excited to take that briefcase of money over to Victor and happily buy Chancellor Industries. And as soon as she shows up in his office, Victor is not selling. All of a sudden, it's almost the equivalent of, well, I know I told you that it was $1 million, but now you've brought me $1 million, the price is $2 million. I don't know how much he jacked up the price, but all of a sudden, this huge stack of cash that Jill has is not enough, even though it was exactly what he asked for. So that was really annoying, but I did enjoy the exchange between them, and the fact that Catherine was part of the topic of the conversation, because Jill is saying, Catherine would want me to have this company. In fact, I'm sure she left it to you knowing that I was gonna fight for it. And Victor's coming back saying, yeah, I think Catherine knew in the end that you were gonna get exactly what you deserved. So I like how it's tied into Catherine still. I like that we're getting a business storyline, and it's Catherine's business, and it also in a way allows her to still be part of the story, and I find that very touching. There was a flashback this week, which I don't know if we've seen any other flashbacks of Catherine since she passed away. Have we? It seems so rare, and it certainly has been a while, but it was a flashback scene of Victor being in the hospital. I don't know what for. Somebody shoot him? Heart attack? I'm not sure. He's been in the hospital quite a few times. What was the last thing? Was it didn't he have epilepsy? Wasn't he having seizures a couple years ago? He's got so many probably diseases that have just been forgotten about. I don't know why he was in the hospital. But Catherine was sitting there talking to him. Every time Victor's been in the hospital too, he vows to take a different look at his life and slow things down and focus on his family more. And that's what Catherine is telling him to do. Maybe you need to not focus on business, not make everything about business. Maybe you need to be grateful for what you have and focus on your family. And Victor's coming back at her in this flashback scene saying, yeah, but you should understand, you know, we're cut from the same cloth. I don't just give up that easily. If somebody is wanting to go to battle with me, I'm going to come at him even harder. And Catherine's still like rebuttaling, saying, no, Victor, you need to calm it down. You need to focus on family. Then at the end of the flashback scene, Victor's sitting in his office, and he said something about how much he missed Catherine and that only she would understand why he was doing what he was doing. And I thought it was so contrary to what the flashback scene was. No, Victor, actually, Catherine was telling you to do the opposite of what you're doing. So, no. I didn't get it at the time. It sort of played in throughout the rest of the week, but I enjoyed the flashback scene, and even though I was a little bit puzzled by that. Now, I think it was the very next episode, Ashley and Abby are in the lab, very happy about how well things are going with her fragrance. They've got a new name, Hex. Almost like a spell's been cast, which I love. I think it totally works. They were almost having a celebratory moment when all of a sudden these government agents show up at the door. I don't know. They called themselves the ESB, like the Environmental Safety Bureau or something. I don't know if it's supposed to be the equivalent of the EPA. I don't know if that bureau even exists outside of Y&R land. But these guys show up with badges and they raid the lab, saying that there was a, if you're using a rare root extract from an endangered South American forest, then we have, we've received a tip and we're raiding you. And it's essentially what Ashley had told Victor last week, to throw him off of the scent. And we know damn well that Victor just took her lie and played upon it. And for crying out loud, it was so dirty. It was so underhanded. I mean, Ashley's been working on this fragrance for a year. It's not just a fragrance to her. It's a chance to prove herself and prove her worthiness within Jabot. And in one instant, Victor has bribed this ESB agent guy, and all of the stuff has been seized. And I felt so horrible for her in that moment. Whoever the bribe guy was, the guy that got bribed, brings back Victor a sample vial. He's got it in his hot little hands, and just as Ashley is realizing what happened, she's getting ready to go confront him. We see the scene of Victor looking at the little fragrance bottle with the Jabot label on it. Next thing you know, Ashley's bursting through the door saying, "I know you're the one behind this." And Victor says, "Oh, no. Newman Enterprises has been working on an organic fragrance. As a matter of fact, I have a sample of it right here." And he holds it up in her face, and it has a Newman Enterprises label on it. That bastard stole from her, stole her fragrance, stole her hard work, and then had the nerve to put a Newman Enterprises label on it. I was so mad at him in that moment. I was shocked it was good, but I could not believe he would do that. It just felt low. This is your ex-wife. This is the mother of your child. She's not just a competitor. She's a human being. And doing that just seemed so awful and wrong. And Ashley knew it. And to boot, Victoria walks in right in the middle of this argument between them, and Victor throws her right into the middle of it and says, "Oh, right, Victoria? We've been working on this for a long time. Right, Victoria?" Expecting Victoria to just blindly back him up and lie for her. What an a-hole. I mean, he is a real piece of work. I always try to give Victor the benefit of the doubt. You know me. But man, what an a-hole. There's no other way to describe him. I was so mad, and Ashley was so mad. And there's this moment where right before, where we don't know what Victoria is gonna say. Can you believe he just threw her right into the middle of that and put it all on her? All of the lie, put it right on Victoria, which is too much. It's too heavy. And if you love somebody, why would you put them on the spot like that? And there's this moment where we don't know what Victoria is going to say. Is she going to back up Victor's lie, or is she going to tell the truth? And actually, I loved Ashley's argument to Victoria. She said, you and I, we're here for the same reason. We're working at these companies for the same reason, because we want the respect and the power that we deserve as women in business. And, you know, Victoria, we can be just as powerful as these men, and we can set the standard, and we can decide to conduct business in a respectful way. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be lies and deceit and espionage. And it was such a wonderful appeal to Victoria's better senses, something she never got from her father. And in this moment, Victoria is faced with a decision, and she lies. She lies for Victor. And Ashley is just so disgusted, she walks away and says something like, you know, you two deserve each other. And I completely agree. I'm not surprised at all. I could have told you immediately what Victoria's choice was going to be. I believe, and have always believed, that Victoria will always choose Victor's side. She's been born and bred to do so. You almost can't blame her. She's been raised from a little girl to follow Victor, to do as he wants, to do as he pleases, and more than any of his other children, she's struggled with that, where she wants to make him happy, even if it means doing the wrong thing, or in some cases sacrificing her own happiness. So Victoria put on a bright face, and you could tell, I think, chased after Ashley in the hall. I could be wrong, I can't remember, but you could tell she wasn't comfortable with the decision she made. She was, with a fury, busts back into Victor's office once they have a moment alone, and tells him, you know, I know you're lying, and I hate that you put me in that position, and I don't know why you would do this. And of course, Victor has an excuse for everything. Oh, it's just part of business. Espionage is part of business, whether you like it or not. And if you can't handle it, then, you know, then maybe you shouldn't be in business. And Victoria is pretty much saying the same thing. If we're going to play by these rules, then I don't want to play this game. But yet at the same time, she still wants her job. She still wants a place at this company. So Victoria plays the only card she can. If you don't give that stuff back to Ashley, if you don't make this right, change your mind right now, then guess what? You're not attending my daughter's christening tomorrow. You're not going to be allowed in her life. You're not going to have a part in my family. Oh, and guess what else? I'm not even going to give the kid the Newman name. This kid's going to be Catherine Rose Abbott. No Newman. Victor almost looked a little impressed with her in that moment, because she said that and walked out, and there's a scene of Victor kind of shaking his head, you know, like, my daughter may have one-upped me, or, you know, it was, you know, or accepting that that it was all part of the game, and maybe a little bit impressed that she was able to play it as well. I mean, it was kind of again, it was also sort of a lame card to play, but it hit Victor in the right spot. The next day is the christening. Nikki has found out about what Victor has done. She's not happy with him, so she's drinking. Of course she's drinking. It's getting old. The drinking, it has been old for me since the storyline started. I did enjoy, though, very much, Nikki taking a drink of the vodka in Victor's office and looking over into the corner where there is a picture of Catherine. There was a lot of Catherine this week. I really enjoyed that. But she's looking at the photo of her dear old friend, who also struggled with alcoholism for years, and Nikki's saying, what are you looking at? You know, you should know better than anyone what I'm going through. And I love this. We know Catherine, but we know Catherine, we understand the story, but I also love the idea of this woman sort of talking to herself, talking out loud to herself, as she's, you know, making this decision of whether or not she should drink, or if she's going to drink. But, yeah, I thought that was a really, really good scene. She is just on a downward spiral. She goes, one by one, everybody shows up at the christening. It was a good scene. They did a couple of neat kind of camera tricks too. Everybody's kind of showing up. Well, it started out with Nick being there at the same church where he was last, getting married to Sharon, where his little world kind of ended in some ways, or stopped, or took a different turn. And one by one, everybody kind of piles into the church, and Nikki is off on the sidelines just listening to the conversations, and several of the people are there complaining about Victor, and if they're not complaining about Victor, they're kind of talking about the problems in their life, and Nikki's overhearing, just listening. And I think there was something about knowing that her family is not happy that made her more unhappy, so she rushes out and takes another drink. She had some vodka in a water bottle, the old water bottle trick. Nikki pulled that out at the christening. So she's been drinking probably since early in the morning. I don't know how anybody didn't notice, but it's a very uncomfortable christening. It's a very uncomfortable occasion for pretty much everybody. Nobody's really happy, and they didn't really seem at first to be focused that much on the child. It was really more about the adult issues, and everybody's there except Victor, until Victor showed up. I did laugh when Billy called him Dr. Evil. That made me laugh. It worked. It should be more like Mr. Evil, but yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. It was reminiscent of Connor's christening, where Victor showed up unwanted at Connor's christening, and nobody really wanted there. It was he really is like a poop in a punch bowl. Everywhere he goes. Unfortunately, it's kind of an unfortunate truth. But Victor's kind of showing up, and there's this moment where I'm wondering, is Victoria going to kick him out? Is he going to get to stay? What's the deal? Jack reveals that he's gotten a call from the ESB, and they've returned everything. So the investigation, they didn't find any problems with any of their stuff, so everything's been returned, which kind of indicates that Victor called off this little investigation. I'm sure he didn't like having a call in that favor only to have it completely screwed just a few hours later. But it doesn't matter. I immediately thought, he got a sample. It doesn't matter. If there's absolutely no way he didn't get anything out of that. Victoria tells him, okay, you did what I asked, so I'm gonna let you stay for the christening. But I just knew. This is Victor Newman we're talking about. It was a nice ceremony, though, I will say. Everybody's talking about all of the potential that Kate will have in her life, and I'm just thinking, I hope the kid doesn't die the way that YNR loves to kill kids. And then it was pretty close, because later at Victoria's house, Nikki's totally drunk, and she almost drops the baby. Way to go. That's got to be a sign that it's time to pull it back, Nikki. You almost dropped the baby. She blames it on an MS flare-up, but it just astonishes me that nobody notices she's drunk. She, especially at the point right before they put the baby in her arms for the photo, she was visibly sloshed, and she gets like, okay, so I guess I'll just it's time for a picture, okay. It's so obvious. If I didn't know she was drinking, I would still think it was completely obvious. So why doesn't anybody figure it out? Blah. Everybody's just coddles her, I guess. It's her MS. We must be tolerant. Later, Nikki goes home. Nick shows up, and he tells Victor everything about what just happened, that she almost dropped a baby, so maybe we need to keep an eye on her. And in that moment, Victor's trying to take care of Nikki, and he's telling her he's going to take care of her, and that he's decided that she's under too much stress, and in order to help her, he is not going to sell the warehouse district. So he's decided he's pulling out of that whole thing. Dylan can keep his business, and there doesn't have to be any more turmoil in the family. But I just thought, you know what? his sentiments are totally lost on me. I know what his motives are. I mean, we saw a scene where he's got a sample of Ashley's perfume, and he's gonna have it analyzed. Was there ever any doubt? You think he's gonna go to all that trouble and not get a drop? So he's got it. So the fact that he tells Nikki he's not selling the warehouse district for her, well, who cares? It's less about Nikki and more about the fact that you found another source of income, maybe two. You're going to be able to develop the competitive brand to compete with Ashley's fragrance. And then he calls Jill right after and tells her he is going to sell Chancellor Industries, and if she wants to buy it, she can bring him the money tonight, or he's going to put it on the market the next day. So, I mean, am I supposed to be impressed by his grand gestures? I mean, it seemed like that conversation, it seemed like on the surface, the flashback with Catherine was coming to pass, where he was deciding to actually take her advice and slow it down and focus on family. But I still don't believe it. I still don't buy it. I think he only slows it down and only focuses on, he only slows it down to the extent that it suits him, and he only focuses on his family to the extent that it benefits him. Sharon has a secret weapon in her battle against Nick, which is Faith telling her, I heard Daddy telling that woman to take her clothes off. Which in a microcosm sounds so bad. Can you imagine how bad that's gonna sound in court? Can you imagine that Nick is just at home on his daughter weekend telling some other woman, take your clothes off? It's almost like, I didn't even get to talk about it last week, but that scene between Lily and Kane where it was a lovemaking scene and he was directing her what to do, like take off your blouse or whatever, and she'd do it. But you remember, I guess it was last week. I kept that whole scene, I don't know why I didn't talk about it, because I've kept thinking, I should think this is so hot, but it wasn't. Like, something about it was just weird. I'm sure somebody was really, it was different. It was different. I will give them that. It was interesting. But I kind of looked away a little bit during it. It made me blush. It was a little too much. I wasn't ready emotionally for that. But anyway, this isn't about Lily and Kane. This is about Nick and Sharon. So Faith goes to Mariah and tells her that she didn't have to, she didn't get to tell Sharon the rest of the story, and that, she knew that it was because Sage spilled something on her, and that's why she needed to take her clothes off. But immediately Sharon went to her lawyer, and old Mr. Sherman, shoot, I can't ever think of his first name, young Sherman, he's Marshall Sherman's son. He'll never be anything else. So Sharon goes to him, and he has the suggestion that maybe they need to put Faith on the stand to tell her a little story. So it sounds like they're going to be moving forward with that. Nick mentioned that the custody hearing is scheduled for next week, so I imagine we're going to be seeing little Faith take the stand. I don't know what she's gonna say, but clearly she wants her parents to be together, so I don't know if she's gonna lie or tell the truth or what. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's right of Sharon to let Faith take the stand? I mean, I don't know if it's any worse than Nick trying to take away Sharon's custody. It's gotten so ugly. I really wish it hadn't gotten to this point. I think it's gonna be maybe, you know what, I bet you Phyllis is gonna stand trial, because if they're doing a custody hearing, that means they've probably built a courtroom set. So maybe we'll be seeing that for Nick and Sharon and Phyllis as well. I don't know. I kind of am digging the chemistry between Sage and Nick. Like I said before, it's not gonna last. He's gonna find out that she's lying to him when the Adam thing comes out. So it's not gonna be a lasting relationship, but I do really like them for now. I think they make a cute couple. There was I'm kind of wondering if there's a little bit of chemistry between Adam and Sage, or Gabriel and Sage. After Chelsea had decided that Gabriel was getting too close to her and too familiar in some way, Gabe decided that he was going to try to put Chelsea at ease a little bit by pretending that Sage is his girlfriend, and he kissed her in public, right in front of Chelsea and Billy. And I thought, I wonder if they're gonna end up falling for each other throughout the course of all of this. But at the same, or maybe coming back to one another, because I do kind of think Nick and Sage would make a cute couple. They're around each other a lot. I like the way Sage is kind of giggly around him. I like the way Sage can turn. I appreciate that she can be devious in one moment and then turn around and be giggly in another. And Nick really clearly likes her, and she's texting him to have good luck at the custody hearing. And I don't know, they make a cute little couple. After to everybody in town, Gabriel and Sage are friends. Nobody's really known the nature of their relationship, but now since Adam kissed her right in front of Chelsea, now Chelsea realized that they're dating, and Chelsea spilled the secret a little bit to Nick, that what's going on between Sage and Gabriel is more than meets the eye. So Chelsea kind of forces Sage's hand to tell Nick, although she didn't have to tell him everything, and she did. She said pretty much the complete truth, that they were in a sham marriage so that he could get his inheritance money. And it was really close to putting a little bit of a damper on the relationship, but Nick seemed to be okay with it. He said, you know what, all right, you're in an arranged marriage, that's fine, I can deal with that as long as you're not lying to me about anything else. I'm sure I can deal with that. He didn't say that, but I'm sure that's what he's thinking. But Nick is becoming increasingly aware that this Gabriel guy is maybe not all good. Even though Gabe was fun and games in boarding school, I get the impression that Nick is realizing he's turned into kind of a shady adult, that there's something weird about him. Nick he kind of looks in the distance and sees Adam pointing his finger threateningly at Sage, and realizes that there's something about this guy that he really doesn't like on many levels, and it's probably only exacerbated by the fact that he's probably developing feelings for Sage. So Nick's not liking Gabriel. This new executor of Constance's estate shows up, and he's not really liking Gabriel either. This executor shows up to reinforce that they're supposed to be married for 3 years in order for them to get the inheritance, and if they're pulling the wool over his eyes, then they're not gonna get it. It's such a ridiculous provision to be in a will. Has anybody ever actually done that? It seems dumb to me. It seems like this executor is taking a special interest in this case. Constance was very clear about the terms, and if you're pulling the wool over my eyes, you're not gonna get a dime. Who even does that? Who goes out of their way to care or to enforce this? I don't know. I guess that's his job. Well, anyway, Gabriel has decided he wants to sell Constance's old dusty old mansion so that he can buy himself a brand new condo located, get this, right across the hall from Chelsea. Of course. It's fine. I love a new set. You know, I was happy to walk into that grand new set. That was pretty cool. But I think it's weird that they're gonna have to pretend to be sleeping in the same bedroom. I guess if you were gonna pull off this lie, you would want to do that. But Sage and Gabriel have to be sort of sleeping together. It's just all one big lie. And then B, it's just weird to me that he would. Did he really have to get the condo right across the hall? I get that every time Adam is alone with Chelsea, he realizes that Chelsea still misses him. Well, yeah, you were married, you died, she misses her husband. She didn't get to resolve it. Anytime somebody dies, you miss them, you remember them. It's not some little signal that, or it's not, I don't think it's a signal that you need to keep forward with what you're doing. It's just, I guess, even though I have been kind of feeling the chemistry between new Adam and Chelsea, at the same time, the condo right across the hall is getting a little stalky. Well, at the end of last week's shows, Dylan was confronting Joe, and hardcore too. I mean, Dylan is looking crazy faced. He's bruised, he's cut, he's battered, and he is on the edge. And he is threatening Joe, saying, I could kill you and I would kill you. And don't you forget, did you know, Joe, that I was special forces in the US Army? So don't you think that I couldn't kill you and get away with it, because I could and I would. It was like a straight up death threat. Later on, like after it all calms down, Dylan goes back to the coffee house and Avery's like, why would you do that? You took a gun. And he reveals he never had the gun, so it was just sort of like a bluff that the gun was in the situation. But I don't care. There's still a gun, and Dylan has still done a death threat. So I'm thinking, is Joe gonna die now? I mean, is he just gonna end up dead, or is he gonna fake his own death? Didn't we just go through this with Ian Ward? Isn't it like the exact same story? Somebody framing Dylan for their death? It just feels like it's headed in that direction. Maybe it's just me. But Joe, I don't want him to die, but he's starting to creep me out too. He's so sexy. Why does he have to be creepy? He tells, yeah, I get it, you're still in love with Avery, but buddy, you kind of missed your chance. And I also get that you want to stop her from marrying Dylan, but Joe made this kind of indecent proposal style offer to Avery, like, okay, fine, you want me to leave Dylan alone, I'll leave him alone, but you just give me what I want and I'll stop. And then the implication was, if you sleep with me, I'll leave him alone. Do it for him. Which I can't imagine, never could imagine that she would be dumb enough to do. As if she did sleep with him, he would just go and tell Dylan and she would ruin that relationship. So why would she do that when she doesn't really want to be with Joe? I don't like that he even put that out there, but she very smartly decides, okay, I'm gonna meet him, but I'm gonna wear a wire. And she has Kevin wire her up and record the whole thing, and she goes to his hotel room, and there is sort of an assumption that he wants to just have sex with her. Ooh, it's just so, it's just so inappropriate. It's indecent is what it is. It is indecent indeed. And he says, oh, he acts like that's, like he wants to have sex with her, but that wasn't where he was going with this. He pulls out, he kind of wants to have a romantic evening. He's got dinner there, drinks, and she's obviously very straight-faced and forceful, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with any of this, and he's trying so hard to break the ice, and he pulls out this necklace and shows it to her, opens up this beautiful black velvet box, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous necklace inside, and he says, do you remember this? This is the necklace that you admired when we were on our honeymoon, and I couldn't afford it it then, but I can now. And as soon as I could afford it, I went and I bought this necklace for you, and I've been holding on to it ever since. And it was really a heartbreaking monologue, and it said a lot about his character. He thought the goal in life was to make enough money to make them secure. And unfortunately, he took his eye off of the most important thing, which was the relationship he had with Avery. And as soon as he got enough money to buy her this thing, you know, he went and got it for her, but he lost her. And it made me really, really sad. But I was also thinking, how can he not know that she's up to something? She never shows him anything but disdain, although maybe he knows her in a way that we don't. They were married. They supposedly I assume they have some, you know, a deep, deep relationship and a deep, deep history. But how could he not know? He didn't discover that she had on the wire, but he got to her. As soon as she left, he was saying, you know, he sort of said to himself, this wasn't pointless. You know, he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. He had said something to her like, you know, when was the last time you laughed? Can you say that about Dylan? We laughed. We made love and we had this great relationship. And is that how it is with Dylan? And she kind of ran out and went to go see Dylan. And there's this look on her face where it did seem like he really got up under her skin. And it's the second time she's done that, where she's still feeling for Joe, but doesn't want to admit it. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute here. He's saying, when was the last time you laughed with Dylan? Well, wasn't it earlier today? I seem to remember a scene before the christening where they were laughing. I mean, I remember laughings that happened weeks and weeks ago. So he's out of the blue, he's sort of reaching for straws, painting this picture of Avery and Dylan not having fun and not having romance and not having passion, and that's just simply not true, and she should know that. I did love the aftermath of Colin getting the money from Devon. There's a scene where Jill and Colin are at the athletic club talking about the big sum of cash and where did he get that big sum of cash. And of course, Lillian Kane and Devon walk in and they're wondering, well, yeah, where did you get that cash, Colin? And I loved that Devon jumped right in and said, yeah, why don't you just, what are you skirting around? Why don't you just tell him where you got the cash? It felt good. I like that Devon has been a little bit more forceful throughout this whole blackmailing thing. He's not afraid to hold Colin's feet to the fire, and at this point, I think Devon doesn't really care as much for himself if the secret comes out about his affair with Hillary. I think he's only keeping his mouth shut because that is what she wants. I think Devon probably would have told everyone a whole lot sooner if it weren't for her. So, I don't know, maybe he doesn't mind poking the bear a little bit, but I thought that was a fun scene. Now at home with Neil and Hillary, Neil knows something's wrong with her. He felt her tears on the pillow, even though he can't see and she's lying and crying in secret. He felt them on the pillow, which, by the way, I thought was a sweet moment. He asks her and confronts her, what is she upset about? And then he tells her his secret, finally, about the fact that he's begun to see again, or that he's seen flashes, and that he's in this experimental therapy thing, and that there is, for the first time, a possibility that he might actually see again. And she is elated, and he runs off to his appointment, and Devon shows up at the condo, and she tells him, she says, oh my gosh, you're not gonna believe this, Neil might be able to see again soon, and I feel so selfish, but my first thought when he said that was, oh my gosh, we could have our life. You and me, we could have our life together, and Neil could have his life back. And I just thought, oh, does he know that? Does Neil know that he didn't have his life? No. Neil is not aware of any of this. He could have his life back like you're giving him some kind of gift. Let's just call it what it is. You're lying to, you can stop lying to him. Yeah, sure, you can have your life with Devon, but more importantly, you just you want to stop the lie. So I don't know. It's also deceitful, and I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know how much longer it can possibly go on. The preview for Monday's show, I don't know what happened, but we just see Neil hauling off and punching Devon in the face. Could this be it? I'm gonna have to not look at I'm gonna have to not be able to look at comments, because if you're in Canada, you've already seen, so you already know why Neil punches Devon. I can't think of any other reason other than sleeping with his wife that would make Neil haul off and punch his own son, unless there's some kind of trick up Y&R's sleeve. Don't you dare tell me. Canadians, you sneaky Canadians, and those who just watch the show a day ahead. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine what else it would be. Could next week be the week that we've all been waiting for? Okay, everybody, I better get going. I could be buried in snow. So maybe send some good positive thoughts my way. I don't mind the snow when I'm able to be in. I don't mind it at all. I just worry that I'm going to lose power and it's going to be cold and no internet. What a horrible fate. All right, so I hope I hit it all. I am looking forward to next week's show. We got definitely the custody battle to look forward to, and definitely whatever's going to be happening with the Winters family. So next week should be really good. So come back next Sunday, and we will chat again about our Y&R. Okay, I'll see you then. I love you guys. Bye.